Welcome to the Sober Biz Podcast, the show for the bold, the brilliant, and the booze-free. Here we talk about building meaningful booze-free businesses, turning your mess into your message, and showing up even when you feel like an imposter. This is no fluff and no filters, honest conversations for alcohol-free entrepreneurs who want to make an impact. Hello, and welcome to the Sober Biz Collective. My name is Brooke. I am so excited to introduce today's guest, Andrew. He's the creator of Sober Founders, which is an incredible community. And we were just speaking before we got started, something that I really wanted to exist in the world and I was going to try and create. But knowing that someone's doing it, I'm just like super excited to join in. I want to help any way I can. He's creating kind of a recovery community for people, for entrepreneurs that are sober. So we can come together and like really share those deep things that are happening, the things that we get to share in the rooms, but for our business. Welcome, Andrew. I'm so thrilled that we finally got to connect.
Yeah, it was been a minute in the making. We were supposed to like 3 months ago. And then I was like, I'm in another country and don't have like access to anything. So maybe we just, table it for when I can actually like pay attention and not have screaming kids in the background. So excited to be here. And I'm so glad that you exist too.
Oh,
Like
thank you.
it's crazy that more of it doesn't exist. And I've had a person come up to me and I guess I could get into like my story and all, but like we'll fast forward to now and we're like Tarantino it to the back. But a guy was like, he came up to me, he had like 25 years sober, and he's like, I don't tell anybody that I'm sober. He's like, I haven't come out. And I was like, I've never heard someone call it coming out. I don't know if you know that has like a different connotation in today's world, but yeah, I'm loud and proud on my recovery, right?
There is some stigma around it still, though. Like I can definitely see the hesitation to just come out and say you're sober. And I hadn't felt it actually until this year because I've just been so immersed in a sober community. All my friends are sober. I have been 9 years like without alcohol. So my world really revolved around sobriety. And I just recently started working in a co-working space with like normies where people drink and they have like beer o'clock on Thursdays. And like all those things are happening. And I find myself being like, oh, people are gonna think I'm like judging them or something. And I'm finding it that now after 9 years, I'm like holding back a little more around people, which is so strange because I've been so loud and vocal about it for so long. Do you ever find yourself in those situations?
I thought early on, I was like, everybody is going to be judging me and everyone's going to be thinking, why isn't he drinking? And no one thinks that. I've come to realize like we're all the star in our own movie, but we are an extra in everybody else's movie. And no one cares whether or not the extra is drinking in their movie because it's just not part of the things that they care about. So, I mean, in my world, it's like, haven't you all noticed that there isn't alcohol in my drink? And it's like, no, we didn't notice. No one really pays attention to that. It seems you pay attention when other people are, but no, I've come to find that no one, maybe not no one as a collective, but nothing has stood out to me as oh my goodness, you don't drink and now things are worse. And even my drinking buddies, they're just like, you weren't good when you were drinking. So we like you better sober. Like we have a designated driver and you don't turn into who you turn into.
Yeah.
Which is not the person that anyone likes. So like you keep not drinking and the rest of us regular people that can drink and then stop and go to their work like a normal human being, like they can keep doing that. And that's cool. I feel I've got an allergy. I can't do it the way that other people can. I semi wish that I could, but I'm really grateful that I found recovery in the 12 steps and my life is much better as a result. And I've stopped looking at things so much through the lens of, was this a good thing or a bad thing? And
Mhm.
more of just my preference. I've had a DUI. Was that my preference? No. Had to go to rehab. Was that my preference? No. However, now being sober and seeing all the things that have happened as a result of doing that, is it my preference? Absolutely. So were those
Mhm.
things good or were they bad? And so I've tried to stop assigning labels to things as so much good or bad and more just my preference given the information that I currently have. And sometimes when things aren't going the way that my preference wants, like right
Mhm.
now, we're in a like fight with Airbnb to get a $13,000 deposit back.
Ooh,
Yeah, yeah, and it's, like, not my preference to lose that for something we're not gonna go to. Like, that's
right.
pretty big, and it was for a month-long stay and is dangerous with babies, and we're like, "Yeah, this is dangerous, so we won't do it," and they're like, "Mm, okay, we'll just keep it," and it's like 9 months away. You could rebook, and so that's my current
You could have a whole
thing.
other baby in that time.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we'll do. We will have another baby. So then we're like, "What are you gonna make us do this with my daughter?" She'll be 3 at that time, so, I mean, it's dangerous enough with her as it is.
Well, I do want to dive into your story, but I definitely want to touch on that point that you were just speaking about of like the gratitude for sobriety. Because I totally feel that. I was just talking about this yesterday. Like, I'm so glad that I had a problem. I'm so glad that that this was my problem because I think everybody has problems, but that this specifically, alcohol and drugs, were my problem because there was a place to go and a way to live and like help to get, right? And so now I get to live in this like beautiful way with more freedom than I ever thought possible. And then well, other than apparently I still have some insecurities when I'm around normies, but I mean, I know it all works itself out and it's cool because now it's like I just kind of observe those things that come up, It's not like they take me out and I have to like react to them or whatever. And I kind of have this like sense of like, oh my God, I wish the whole world had this, could live this way, could see
Right?
this stuff. Yeah.
Right? How often are you like, "Oh, man, I really wish you were an alcoholic and, like, had a solution because it's really inconvenient."
Yeah.
The way you handle life is so inconvenient for me.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, let's dive into it. I want to hear your story. I want to know kind of the journey before starting Sober Founders and how that came to be. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, if going all the way back, I've had the addictive personality and the competitive nature of needing to try to be the absolute best of the best at everything, and if not, then I'll just quit. So I did really good in school. I was told, if you get good grades, then you'll get a good job and you'll be super rich. And that's what I was told and was striving for. And then I graduated in '09 with a financial planning degree during a recession from a no name college. And I was just shocked that nobody wanted to hire a kid out of college with no practical experience during one of the worst recessions ever, and I'm just like, "Well, everyone had lied to me this whole time," and so I was working in restaurants at the time, and restaurants are just, and this is a bad sweeping generalization, but I've worked in them for a decade, so I feel I have at least some ground to say this on. But I feel that most people over like 23 in restaurants, like something didn't go according to plan. And I definitely was in that category of, I'm supposed to be a financial planner, not and I was doing a ton of different jobs, worked my way up the ladder in corporate Carrabba's and front of house manager and all this stuff. But like ultimately, in my head, I was a really good employee, but coming to work drunk and coming to work hungover it's, now as someone that employs people, I can see that that's not like, that's not the preference of the business owner for people to come in like wasted, and not just like I had a drink to take off the edge, but just like blacked out a lot. And I remember I'd read those checklists that were like, if you say yes to any of these, you may have a drinking problem. And it'd be like, have you ever blacked out when you drank? And I looked at it puzzled, and I'm like, I need more context than have I. Like every night I do, but do you mean like, have I at work? Have I blacked out driving? Like I need a little more specific, and like that should have been enough for me to realize that there probably was a problem. If like question one, I'm asking it because it's too general of a question. It's like I need quantity, I need details, because obviously everybody blacks out all the time, and it seemed normal to me. And so I'm all through college, I was drinking a lot, but at the time, it was college. And then after I graduated, my friends, like my college drinking buddies, started drinking less and getting real jobs more. And I just sort of found myself just depressed, and I'm justifying. It's like, well, working in a restaurant, it's better than like a real job anyway. I can call out sick if I want, and I'm flexible. And I was doing a lot of justification for, I knew I had more potential, and I was selling myself short. But everything kind of came crashing. I was living in Maryland, and I was driving home from a Capitals game, and I remember I was at the game, and then I come out of a blackout behind the wheel and realize that I'm being pulled over. And so what goes through my brain at that point, I'm thinking, I know I'm going to get a DUI. And I look in my passenger seat, and I had half a bottle of Fireball whiskey. And I was like, I don't want to get in trouble for open container. So I'm going to chug this bottle of Fireball so I get in less trouble. And so I didn't think to hide it either. For some reason, I thought an empty bottle of whiskey would be better than a half full bottle of whiskey. So in Maryland, they have 3 degrees of DUI. They have DUI per se, which is 0.02 and up. 0.08 and up is like regular DUI. And 0.15 and up is the you're in a lot of trouble DUI. So I blew a 0.24. So I got those 3 DUIs plus reckless endangerment plus drinking an alcoholic beverage while driving a vehicle and open container because I didn't hide it. And so and I blacked out like where I got arrested. I had a literal dude, where's my car the next day of I know I got arrested and I don't know where. It was somewhere between my house and DC. And so I'm like calling impounds trying to figure out where, like, I don't know how I got home. Like, I know I got arrested, but don't know how I got home after being arrested. Like, it was a really, really tough day. And so I go to get DUI lawyer, and this guy, Gil, was highly recommended. I was in a restaurant. Everyone has DUIs in restaurants, right? Everyone over 23, it's like a rite of passage. And so I go to Gil, and it's my first experience with a lawyer. And I've seen them in movies and stuff with the leather-bound books. And I go in, and his was more of like a Diagon Alley Harry Potter, like lots of trinkets and knickknacks. And he comes out, he's at least 500 years old, right? Just like old California raisin kind of looking guy. And he comes out, and he's like, he sits me down. And he's like, okay, Andrew, like we're facing this DUI, and like I'm gonna ask you something, and I need you to answer me honestly, okay? And he looks me in the eye and he's like, Andrew, do you like magic? And he pulls up a quarter and he's like, because I take DUIs and make them, and he like switches his hands around and like makes them disappear. And it was like, this seems so different from how I usually have seen lawyers portrayed, but I guess sometimes the movies are different than real life. So his strategy, the plan is we are going to preemptively put a breathalyzer in my car. Now, if you have a breathalyzer in your car, all of these blows that you do, they get uploaded to the state. So it's very important that I do not give myself DUIs in an attempt to prove I don't frequently drink and drive from a breathalyzer no one has asked me to put in my car. So the DUI happens in January. And so 2 months later, I'm in court in March with the 6 charges from my DUI night, plus an additional 3 failed blows that I gave myself, proving that I don't drink and drive a lot. And so I was given the ultimatum of rehab or jail. I chose the former. And it's funny how just twisted my brain was. Like I was giving my parents, so I'm 26 at this time, and I was giving my parents an ultimatum, like, I'll go to rehab, but you have to pay all my bills now. And it's like, I'm the one that made the mistake. Like this isn't zero way their fault or their responsibility. Like I should be grateful that they still talk to me. But I go to treatment, and I had no intention of actually getting sober. And so this is March 2013. I had every intention though of not going to jail.
Mm.
And so I put on the mask of I'm going to be the shining star in rehab. So I know that it won't work. And they're like, okay, you need to get vulnerable and share how you're feeling. And my whole life I was taught like feelings, you don't do the feelings thing. Like you can feel them, but you do not share them. You stuff them down and you deal with it. And that's still something I struggle with today. But it was very, very much you don't do that. And so in treatment, I looked at it like, I'm going to be here for a month and none of this matters. Whatever. I'm just going to be super vulnerable and like share how I actually feel and open up to my therapist, and like that'll show them, right? And then I start realizing that I start feeling like a lot better when I do these things. And I get out of treatment after a month. I go to a halfway house. They suggested doing 90 meetings in 90 days. And like the overachiever I am, I probably did close to 200 during that time, where it was just all day, every day. I was living in Delray Beach, which is one of the recovery capitals of the world. So there are meetings all day, every day, plural, anywhere you go. So there was no reason not to. I didn't have a good excuse not to. And I was fortunate enough that, they said, get a sponsor and work the steps. And again, I'm still doing this all just to go with the motions, to not go to jail. And after a couple months of pretending to be a sober person, I wasn't drinking and I was working the steps and going to meetings, and I was making a bunch of decisions that in my head were going to like screw me over because it wasn't the decision that I wanted. And it was like, haha, I'm going to listen to my sponsor and it's going to really blow up in my face. And then like something magnificent would happen. And then I kept being like, oh, let me guess. It's because I'm sober, right? Let me guess. And it's like, I keep saying this thing sarcastically, and maybe there's an ounce of truth to it. And I kind of opened up my eyes, and I'm pretty analytical. And I'm just I'm getting way better results as fake sober Andrew than I did as trying my best Andrew. And I think I'll just keep doing this until it stops working. And that was in 2013. And now, we're recording this 12 and a half years later. And I still haven't found a good enough reason. Things just keep getting better. And I thought I peaked in 2013. And I look at my life now versus then, and it's like, man, I had nothing. And not just physical material things, but just spirituality and a solution and just ways to go about my life. And so year one into my journey, I was at a startup. They went out of business and I was running the IT department there. I made an agreement with the owner. I said, I'll just run the whole company for you. We don't have to tell our customers we're out of business. You can keep collecting their money and I'll work for you for free. And after 2 months, if the phone rings, I just change their billing. You turn them off, I turn them on. So you keep getting money from people that that aren't using it, and I'll get money from people that do. And from there, it went from me in my living room to 30 people in 6 offices, and then 50 people, and it was growing really fast. And I had a huge ego that I'm an unstoppable entrepreneur and that everything I touch turns to gold. And the universe was able to slap me in the face. Like we had from 2014 to 2017, we went from 36,000 in revenue to I think 4.3 million. And then the next year was 2.5, and then the next year was 2, and then the next year was 1, where we bottomed out. And during all of this time, I'm going to meetings and it's like, this is the place I'm supposed to be allowed to be vulnerable. But person before me shares, they say, I just lost my job at CVS and I'm about to kill myself and I've lost my family and I've lost everything and I can't stop drinking. And then I'm like, my business isn't as good as it once was. Right. And it's like, it's not that my problem is worse than theirs. And don't get me wrong, I'm grateful for the problems I have. But also, I'm not able to talk about it in the place where I'm supposed to be able to talk about it. And then we had opportunities come our way that was, for lack of better words, it was very shady marketing. It was legal. My entrepreneur friends are like, do it. This is how to make money. And it's legal. If it was illegal, they would make it illegal. And it's like, I really don't feel comfortable doing it. And I feel like it goes against everything that we're told in like 12-step recovery. And they're like, I don't know what that is. They're like, it's legal. It makes money. Do that. And then the recovery people are like, don't do it because it doesn't line up with principles. And I'm like, yeah, but I have 50 people on payroll that need it to work. So I have conflicting advice and they're both right in a sense. I mean, obviously, objectively telling the story now, right? It's like, of course you should take the one where you make no money, but it's the right thing. But that was the path I ultimately ended up choosing. And it's interesting how the universe has a way of working itself out. I was in a parking lot and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I'm just going to go into the office and I'm just going to tell everyone we're just marketing the old way that doesn't work well and we'll probably go out of business. And I just failed and that's that. And as soon as I did that, this is just one of those, you wouldn't believe it, but this is what happened. I get a text message from a guy that I spoke to for maybe 5 minutes 6 months prior, randomly at a Dunkin' Donuts. It was one of those, oh, hey, yeah, totally. Let's exchange numbers. Yeah, we'll keep in touch and don't. One of those people on the phone that's like, I don't even know who Dan Dunkin' Donuts is.
Yes.
And he texts me, he's like, hey, that company that you were at that went out of business, you were able to turn it around. You had 500 customers. my company had 60,000 customers and we just went out of business. Could you do that for us too? And so at that point, it was like, well, this is either like the perfect universe moment or like he's trying to pull something. And so I knew that that list of 60,000 was worth $300,000. And I was going to come in and kind of like lowball him and just try to get it for $100,000. Because I mean, it's an Excel sheet. But it's the best leads ever.
Mm.
And so I was like, I'm gonna try go in for 100,000 and see if he bites. I know it's worth 300. I'm gonna go for 100. And so I was about to send that, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna ask him what he wants. And so he wanted 600 for it. And then he was like, we could just meet at like the ATM. Like, I don't want to have like a paper trail or anything. And I was like, you wanted $600.00? And then I'm like, of course this guy's trying to scam me. Or this is that whole applying principles in all my affairs and things magically work out. And that $600 trial
$600?
$600.00.
I was thinking you were talking about $600,000.
That's what I thought we were talking about too. He wanted $600 because to him it was just an Excel sheet. And he didn't know what he had. So yeah, and that turned into I've told the story enough times. I should just go back and try to do the math, but we'll say minimum $3 or $4 million and transformed everything in my business. So, we go into that wasn't my preference to be in that situation, but it ended up okay. Then the company still wasn't doing that well and bottomed out in 2020. And I tried to sell the company, didn't work out. Basically, everyone was like, why would I want to buy this sinking ship? Your company is not a good company. You have tons of overhead. You have all these employees. You don't have customers that are on contract. It's just a laundry list of why I am not good at what I do. And I randomly get a text from my accountant. He says, hey, the IRS put out this new requirement for cybersecurity. Could you help me? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. It'll probably take me a couple minutes. And it took me a week. And then I was like, hey, this took me a week and every single one of you needs to get this done? He's like, yeah, it's a new law. And then I look around, no one else was doing that at all. And then that turned into a gigantic grand slam. So it's like, I wanted to sell my company in 2019, but if I had, the thing that completely catapulted us and ultimately led to our exit in 2023 from our largest competitor, there were only 12 of us, and we were stealing market share from a 700 person giant public private equity backed. They're partners with all of the big software companies, and the 12 of us were destroying them. And so it was great that happened when it did, because I just checked the other day, like ChatGPT would have just put us out of business. Like it does virtually everything we did. And like it used to not be good enough, but now it definitely is. So once again, God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. But the problem then came that entrepreneurs make terrible employees. And I was working at this company and they weren't like bad people or anything. It's just I still don't exactly understand why, if Andrew can acquire a customer for $300 and they acquire a customer for $22,000, why we wouldn't just only do Andrew's way, or at least do both ways. And it's like, this is why we were winning.
Mm.
And I had to fight, literally multiple fights to get it up the ladder to people to understand that $300 is less than $22,000. And it was not as easy as look at the math. Ultimately I ended up losing the fight too.
Mm.
The president was like, yeah, this 22,000 one makes more sense. It is what it is. Thank God that it was that way, because I've had sponsees along the way that they're in recovery and left their 9 to 5, started a business. And I loved the conversations that I would have with them where they'd be, I am dealing with this business struggle.
Mm.
And then we would turn it into some sort of, well, how could we apply some sort of 12-step principle in this scenario in your life? And so I was having a conversation with one day, and it was actually 1 year ago yesterday, which is pretty cool. October 29th was the 1-year anniversary of this. And I was like, how do I scale you? Right? Like, there wasn't a formula that I went to my home group, randomly shared, you randomly asked me to sponsor you, and randomly 2 years later quit your job to start your own right? There isn't, oh, that's our go to market, right?
Mm.
Like random meetings all the time. And so I had just a novel idea of, I put on Facebook and LinkedIn, just, hey, if you're sober and own a business, then let's all just hop on a Zoom meeting and just, we'll do like a mastermind kind of thing. And I thought it would just be friends that showed up, but I had forgot that I had some following on LinkedIn from when I was cybersecurity for accountants
Mm.
person. And so we had random people show up that followed me on LinkedIn, as well as my friends. And the group went really well, and everyone was sharing on their experience. It was very just kind of blase. I didn't have any thought behind it at all.
Mm.
And at the end of it, the strangers were like, "Oh, this is cool. When's the next one?" And I was like, I guess next week." And so that was how our first meeting had started. That's every Tuesday at noon Eastern for business owners that have a year sober and over 250,000 in revenue. And so that started growing, and then a lot of people were like, "Hey, I don't qualify, but there is nothing for sober business owners. Can you just invent another one too, or lower the requirements to get in?" And so I'd asked the people, if we lower the requirements, like, would that be cool so we could help more people? And they had said, no, we like that there's like a barrier to entry, and the
Mm.
conversations are a little more employee focused, and we didn't want to get into some of the startup questions. So
Mhm.
we created a second group. It's Thursdays at 11 Eastern. And then that started blowing up too. And that was going to be just a once a month for the people that can't get in, and then became once a week. And it's been just an incredible journey. And I need to put together the final numbers of year one, but I ballpark want to say had 300, 400 people come to the live Zoom events, and probably 2,000 people that have expressed interest in being part of it, and have met a whole bunch of really cool people. And just, it's been an incredible journey. And with the accountant side of things, I had kind of invented a market that didn't exist. So my business brain understands how to invent a market
Mm.
and then introduce it to people. And as you know, there are not many sober business owner things.
Mhm.
There's tons of business owner things, there's tons of sober things, but there's not really something that combines the two. And it is a unique set of challenges that I'm grateful that I have a lot of the highs and lows to be able to share my own experience.
Mm.
But the meetings have kind of taken on a life of their own. And now I don't have to share. All I have to do is just say, Brooke, that was really interesting. Thank you for sharing. And then call on the next person. So it's like a lot less pressure on me now that people are really into it and doing it. Everyone's just contributing to everyone. But I'm running it like a real business, and it's a 501c3. So nonprofit world is new.
Mm.
And I kind of had some imposter syndrome at first, where it's like, I don't have nonprofit experience. So who am I to do this? And it's like, not having experience pretty much doesn't stop me from doing anything in my life. So I think we're just gonna see what happens, and it's working, and people like it, and they keep coming back. So it's not even friends just saying, "Hey, I'll support you because you're my friend," but
Mhm.
it's a whole bunch of strangers. I think in the last meeting I didn't know a single person before starting this, other than my executive director, who I stole from the company that I sold. And she's been with me for like 9 years. But aside from her, I didn't know anyone before it. So it's been an incredible journey just all around.
Wow, I cannot wait to come and check out one of the masterminds. I've been creeping your website for a couple months now after we first connected, and I was like dumbfounded that this was a thing, that it was real and it existed, because I'd been wanting to try and start it in my little corner of the world. And yeah, we've been putting together like in-person networking events, and the feedback I'm getting is just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad this is here." Like there really isn't a lot out there for entrepreneurs that don't drink, and it's wild to me that a lot of business and a lot of networking centers around booze. Like, it is a big thing, and I know that I'm just observing what's happening culturally. I think that's gonna be shifting soon. Like, I really feel like there's gonna be more options on the table, that drinking's not gonna be kind of expected when you show up to a networking event in the coming future. But where we're at now, it's still it's still a really big part of business for whatever reason. And yeah, so how have you been finding like the feedback from the community? What are people saying coming to the masterminds and getting connected in this way?
So I've decided to add. I do weekly KPIs, and I learned this from when my business was crashing and burning, that
Mm,
I didn't check any KPIs or my finances. And so, life lesson, we have weekly meetings and weekly check-ins where we look at the KPIs and know how the business is health-wise. Would have saved
mm,
me a lot of headache going from 50 to 12 employees. So it was all people that lost their jobs, not because they weren't good at their jobs.
mm,
So that was rough. But I'm thinking of adding like a KPI of just like like a hell yeah. It's like people will come in and literally just I mean, the last one we did was an hour ago, and a girl was like, because of what we talked about last week, I did this, and here was the result, and it was incredible, and thank you. And that has just been it's incredible to see things like that. And I was having a conversation with another girl on the phone, and she was literally crying out of gratitude
mm,
that it exists, and for some of the things that it's helped her in her business. And, I look at the companies that I've built, and I talked about the main tech one, but there's probably 7 other throughout that journey. But the main one, um, tens of thousands of customers, and never once did I have someone crying tears of gratitude for us helping them with cyber compliance for their accounting firm. I've had
mhm,
tears of, "I can't afford this and need it." I've had tears of, "Something horrible has happened and we need you to fix it." But the gratitude ones and people that are just so happy that it exists, and the ability to give back and not have just a 100% I need to monetize this as much as possible, like making it a 501c3. Just it had the line in the sand of I will not be able to, or it will not be in any sort of best interest of mine to stray away from the mission.
Mm.
So if there's things that come up that aren't in alignment, I won't have any feeling of needing to bend, because there's just no reason. Bacardi comes to us and says, we want to sponsor you. And it's like, you're kind of the opposite of everything we stand for. And, but money can sway things, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter to me if you write us a big check. I don't have any sort of incentive. Take zero salary. And it's been just the greatest thing that I've done. And I'm really proud of it, but really proud of the people in it who believe in it and are taking it a lot further. Because my big vision for it is, you walk down the street and you ask someone, like, do you know what AA is? And everyone knows what AA is. But you say, do you know who Bill Wilson is? And not as many people that aren't in 12-step recovery would know who that person is. And that's really what my big picture goal for Sober Founders is for people to know what Sober Founders is, but not know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been built that way, with intention, with scalability in mind. And, nothing's perfect. In year one, I think it's one of those Tony Robbins things. It's like, you over anticipate how much you can do in 1 year, but underestimate how much you can do in 10.
Mm-hmm.
And like, our goal for fundraising came up like 10x short of my goal.
Wow.
However, it is self-sustaining,
Mm.
and that's really what matters the most. Because if we did hit that goal, we'd be able to plug in more and reach more people. But I don't have to take that selfish approach with it, which is really, really helpful for someone like me, that I want to get out of my own way. But sometimes it's difficult when there's things that are like close. Or it's like, oh, it's an NA beer that only has like 1%. And it's like, it doesn't line up, but it almost does.
Mm.
But we can keep it now to where it's just the things we do line up with the mission. And it's just been so cool to be part of it and see it
Yeah.
doing that without me.
I love that you mentioned that, because there's kind of like a spectrum of sobriety nowadays, because sobriety can also be like being vegan, where it's just like a health choice. And I'm not drinking because it doesn't makes me stay up late, or I'm not going to get to sleep, or my blood pressure went high or whatever. So I'm going to give it up, and it's not a big deal, but they consider themselves sober because they don't drink. And then there's the other spectrum where it's like, this is a problem for me. I can't even be around it. I don't want anything that looks like alcohol around me, because that can be triggering, and I'm in recovery, and like, this is life or death for me, right? So with Sober Founders, is it catering to kind of the whole spectrum of sobriety, or is it more for people that are in recovery and looking for business support and
Yeah,
connection?
it goes both ways. It isn't exclusive for people who do 12-step recovery.
Mm.
And there's people in it that have told me they were kind of in the sober curious camp, where it's like, the last time I drank, I don't know, I guess it was my birthday last year, kind of that thing. And then they'll be like, I was on a all-inclusive cruise, but I want to keep coming to these things, so I didn't drink because I want to come to these things. So it's, in my opinion, better if you're familiar with 12-step recovery, but it's not exclusive and you'll still get just as much value out of it. Just maybe some people's experience where they say, I am marketing in a way that's technically legal, but it's shady. And someone says, like, trust God, and maybe that won't resonate well with them.
Right.
But aside from that, it's the commonality of we don't drink, we run businesses, and that's really what brings us all together.
That is so cool. Before I let you go, I'd love to just chat about like the secret to success you've had in business, because it sounds like it's almost like surrender has been your magic um, tool. And every time that you kind of let go and just see what happens, what comes next, and then follow that kind of nudge, it really seems to work out for you. But is there a specific thing, if there's a new business owner that's listening to this, or there's someone that's trying to jump into starting something in their own lives, which honestly I find, I heard someone in recovery say that relationship, if you want to know a lot about yourself, get into a relationship. I feel like the exact same thing happens in business. Like if you want to know a lot about yourself, start a business. And I feel like it's almost like an evolution in recovery. Like we get our lives together, we start being of service, we start showing up for people, and then we want to find purpose in life, and we want to start something and create something and make a difference and help more people. So what would your advice be for someone that's wanting to get started? I know you talked a little bit about KPIs. Is there anything else that
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many lessons learned the hard way.
mm,
Um, don't just try to go in head first and figure it out as you go. There's so many people and so many resources that have been there before, and you don't have to just shot in the dark. I mean, that's the
mm.
kind of entrepreneur that I am, where it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing and I'll figure it out, and then make a ton of mistakes. And everyone that's been there is like, yeah, why did you do that? That was dumb. You shouldn't do that. And I'm like, but I know more than everyone else. I'm so smart. So get some sort of mentorship, or at least have like a business sponsor, right? Like someone that can just, you can bounce ideas off of, that has been where you are and is currently at where you want to be. So having guidance from other people, and I try to surround myself with people that are way farther ahead in the journey than I am.
Mm.
And it's humbling, but at the same time, it's really the best way to go.
Why do you think that is? Is it just to like see other people doing it and kind of seeing that there is a path towards success? Or because I'm also a fumbler that likes to just kind of get into things, be messy, and like fail at them and then learn. But
I I mean, I think there's only so much you can learn from a book
mm,
versus firsthand experience. But like my life lesson learned of always have clients on auto pay.
mm,
Like it took me a $40,000 accounts receivable that I'll never get paid on to learn. If someone was just like, "Hey man, like put them on auto pay." It's very easy to do. Like you just click a couple buttons. Just put them on auto pay. It'll save you some headache, trust me. Like
mm.
it wouldn't have clicked as much as the feelings and story of, just give me one more week, just give me one more week, just
Mm.
give me one more week, and then eventually being like, you're never going to pay me, are you?
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming here, for sharing your story with our community, and tell everyone where they can find you, where they can get connected with the Sober Founder meetings.
Yeah, if you go to soberfounders.org, uh, all the links to the upcoming Zoom events, the masterminds, we're doing some in-person things in South Florida where it started, even though it's worldwide. Um, yeah, so soberfounders.org has all the information, and yeah, so that's the best place to go.
Great. Thank you so much for coming here. And this was an incredible chat. I really appreciate your time and everything that you're doing for the community of people that don't want to drink, but want to, build something big in this world. So thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was great talking with you.